Okay. Hello, everybody. This is Mac Boland of Illinois Matmen.com. And here we are with our next weekly broadcast. Real quick, I want to thank our sponsor, GEI Wrestling Apparel. If you want it, go earn it. Also, before we get ready to start, I'd like to give a shout out, and this is kind of a bittersweet thing, to Bryce Brill. Unfortunately, his wrestling career has come to an end because of injuries. You know, it's unfortunate. I was lucky enough, I got to watch him during his high school career, both at Army and Academy at Mount Carmel. So much potential, so much talent at Northwestern University. And I know, from inside information, he was, the potential to be an NCAA champion was clearly there. I know how well he did against guys like Jason Surtis in practice at Northwestern University, and other guys who were top talent, and how he compared to them. And, the fact that when he was on the mat, he beat a lot of people. So anyway, a shout out, and, wish him the best of luck in whatever endeavors he pursues. If he does get into wrestling coaching, I couldn't think of a better person to be a part of it. Okay, so I have here with me Rob Sherrill, and to start off, we're going to go ahead and maybe look back at last weekend, some of the key things, and we'll start with Class A.
Well, let's see.
There were some key dual meets. I know Coal City had a win over a top 10 team, as did Lena Winslow Stockton.
Yes, Coal City's win over Clifton Central was a match between two top 10 teams. Lena Winslow Stockton, who's my number 2 team, had a win over Mercer County, which is number 5. Vandalia opened its season by finishing second at Civic Memorial. Probably the team of the week, if I have to pick a team of the week, Olympia, which had wins over Porta, Danville, and Leroy. So, and they're now 6-0, and they've moved up 6 spots from their preseason, number 13 ranking. So good for them. And by the way, last Class 1A note, Belleville Althoff, for what we think is the first time in school history, won the Battle of Belleville last night.
Nice.
So congratulations to them.
Yeah, and your top Class A teams, let's see, obviously Dakota, which is not undefeated, but they haven't lost any Class 1As yet. And then Coal City.
Dakota, Lena Winslow Stockton is number 2. Yeah. Coal City, number 3. Wilmington, number 4.
And they haven't lost yet.
Number 5. And Vandalia, number 5. And they are just in the process of getting their dual meet season started now.
Right. Yeah, and those teams are undefeated. Now Dakota, when I say undefeated to Class A competition, their only loss was to, a Class 3A team.
And yes, and they also had a loss to DeKalb at the Washington Duels, so they have 2.
Right.
But both 3A opponents.
Yeah, and so going to Class 2A, and it's almost kind of tough to because Washington is in a position to where literally, if you go back to last year's Class 2A dual team state, half those teams are now in 3A. Marion Catholic, Lincoln Way West, and Mount Carmel are all back up in 3A now. Or I should say are up in 3A now.
The way has really been cleared for them, but moving up to the number 2 spot this week is Crystal Lake Central. They beat Jacobs last week to start their dual meet season. LaSalle Peru is going to move up to number 3. Bloomington is going to move up to number 4. Chatham Glenwood is going to move up to 5. Cahokia just lost on Tuesday to Triad, so they're going to drop a few spots. And they're going to have to work their way back up.
Okay.
So that's your top 5 in 2A.
Okay, and in Class 3A, we actually had some very significant matches and a couple of individual matches that I'm going to go over, but we had some good duels in Class 3A.
Sure did, and it was a great week for Lockport down at the Ron Sauer duels in Missouri. Won 8 matches there by an average score of 53-9, and that included a 62-3 win over Edwardsville in the bracket semifinals. Edwardsville wound up finishing 4th. They had a good run as well.
Good.
Really, Lockport was kind of the team of the week, and if you're gonna look at a second team of the week, it might have been Lincoln Way West, only losing by 3 to Oak Park River Forest, beating Sandburg and Deerfield easily. They're now in the top 5.
Yeah, Lincoln Way West, again, when we talked last week about the breakup and the redistricting of the Lincoln Way schools, of all of them, Lincoln Way West by far benefited the best. And
yes, they did.
And obviously, like you said, beat Carl Sandburg, a dual meet against Oak Park River Forest that came down to the last match. Though in that duel, a very key match that maybe people might have missed at 220 pounds with Chris Middlebrooks, who last year wrestled heavyweight for Oak Park River Forest, because obviously you had Alan Stallings, who went on to win the state championship at 220, though Middlebrooks was never a true heavyweight. And he beat Dudek from Lincoln Way West, who was previously in a state placer from Lincoln Way Central, 3-1 in sudden death overtime, which was obviously a key match in that duel.
And I'm sure it was a match Lincoln Way West probably thought they were going to win.
Sure. But
obviously it all came down to that match.
And I know coming ahead, we're going to have a dual meet between Lincoln Way West and Lockport, which Southwest Suburban Conference. Which will be huge.
That'll be next Tuesday. Now, the lower levels are wrestling tonight at Lincoln Way West. The varsity is going to wrestle next Tuesday, and they're calling that a Blitz on the Stage event. They're going to play it up.
They're going to do it up good.
Put it in the auditorium. I think it's going to be a great atmosphere.
I think that's something that definitely people would want to go out to watch. Who's hosting it?
That'll be at West.
It will be at West. Okay, and that's actually worth the trip to see because I know the way they're going to do it. They're going to do it up huge. Now,
it'll be a great match.
Yeah, and we had, of course, what used to be dubbed the Holy Wars that was supposed to take place at Montini. Evidently, they had a water pipe break. The gym got flooded for whatever reason. They couldn't use the facility, so it got moved back to Mount Carmel. Now, it was interesting. Montini was short a couple of guys, most notably Real Woods because of the ACTs. And Providence Catholic won the duel against Montini, 41-31, and there were some key matches in that one. And then Mount Carmel also won against Montini, 42-24. One of the key matches in that one was Luann winning 3-2 in the second overtime over Thomas. Kind of a little bit of a weird match. This took place at 145 pounds. Of course, both those guys are ranked. It started off with a penalty point for a head slap. Then there was really no score in the first period, couple of escapes. So Thomas was kind of pushing the action, pushing the shots. But after that first penalty, he kind of got away from his aggressive, with the heavy hands on the head, where he let a referee decision kind of get into him. Then they both had escapes, went into overtime. And Luann won in the second overtime. He got a ride out. There was a call on a stalemate where it looked like Thomas was going to escape. Stalemate call. They went back with 10 seconds left. Like I said, though, early season, tough match. Both these guys are top ranked at 145 pounds, and they'll probably see each other again. But that was one of the key matches. Then, of course, you had another dual meet, I believe it was Carl Sandburg versus Lyons Township.
Yes, that took place on Saturday. That was part of a quad that Batavia and Fremd were also part of. And Sandburg won that by a score of 39-28. Don't think there were any individual matches of significance, although I'm pulling out my my results here to see. I do have that the main fan was kind enough to put the box score on the board.
And let's echo that sentiment. Everybody, we really like to see it when you post those box scores. We appreciate it, and it really helps out, particularly for the rankings.
Yes, thank you very much, main fan and everybody else that's posting. Really nothing of individually to talk about in that match. No upsets of any kind. But Sandburg did win that 39-28. They also they went on to sweep that quad. So
yeah. And Sandburg in that duel, both teams have a couple of guys who are highly ranked, but there were no head-to-heads that were noteworthy, so to speak.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, there were very little individually to talk about in that. Probably the only one that I would identify was maybe the heavyweight match between Sandburg and Fremd, where Zach Nemec, who is headed for Michigan, by the way, pinned Skates.
Oh wow! Okay, yeah, and Skates is a ranked heavyweight for Sandburg.
Right. Yep. Returning state qualifier. Yeah. So,
okay, so I want to kind of now move to the meat, so to speak, of this podcast, because what we have coming up this weekend, there are some other events going on. I know Class A's got a big quad coming up, or a super duel, but the real attention coming up this weekend is what is often billed as and lives up to the expectations, the toughest in-season individual tournament format in the country, and that, of course, is the Walsh Jesuit Ironman. Now, that's going to take place this weekend. It starts usually right around 11 a.m. on Friday and then goes into Saturday. And, you know, as in many years, it's absolutely loaded. You've got many of the nationally ranked teams and nationally ranked individuals taking place in there. Now, speaking from an Illinois standpoint, I don't think any of the Illinois teams are going to be a factor in the team competition. And
I don't think so either.
No, you've got, Blair Academy, Lake Highland Prep in Florida, Paris Graham, St. Ed's, maybe your top teams that'll be vying for it. I think going into it, Blair Academy is probably the favorite. They've got 6, maybe 7 nationally ranked individuals and a lot of depth. Lake Highland Prep might challenge. I mean, they've got a really tough lineup too with a lot of nationally ranked individuals. And then Graham and St. Ed's are also tough. Yeah. From an Illinois standpoint, looking strictly at the individuals, I think if anybody has a chance of winning an Ironman title, I think Warner from Washington probably has the best shot at 195 pounds. One, given the fact that he's not just one of the top ranked, if not number 1 or 2 in the country at 195 pounds, but the depth at that weight class at the Ironman kind of makes him a prohibitive favorite.
Yeah, he's the number 1 seed, and it's a long way down from him to the number 1 seed, Nick Moscow, who's come down from 220 from last year of Blair. But I don't. It will be an upset if Warner doesn't win.
Yeah, but I would say he would be the favorite at that weight class. Looking through the weight classes, some of the other guys from Illinois who have a shot at placing or, possibly winning. If you look at Oak Park River Forest, You've got Madrigal at 126 pounds and Rennery at 132 pounds. And at 132 pounds, quite frankly, I would love to see a rematch of Mitch Moore from Paris Graham and Jason Renneria. They met in the finals a couple years ago. Moore won. Renneria is a two-time finalist and a runner-up both times. And then Madrigal at 126, unfortunately, I mean, he could place, but 126 pounds, in my opinion, and you probably are going to agree with me on this, is probably the toughest weight class at the tournament.
Yeah, probably. I would say that's probably the case. My impression at looking at these Ironman seeds is 126 through 182 are all great. Mm-hmm. Possible exception to 138. I don't think 138 is real strong. Below 126, above 182, I don't think there's much there at all. But 126 through 182, very, very strong.
Yeah, and 126, of course, you know, and I hate to say there's Spencer Lee and everybody else, but you know what? There's Spencer Lee and there's everybody else.
That's a pretty accurate statement.
Yeah, and but I mean,
this will be his first time in a major competition at a weight class higher than 120. I'm sure he can handle the extra weight. But we haven't seen him do it yet. Now we got to see him do it against a really tough weight class.
And it's a tough field. I mean, in Illinois, like I mentioned, Madrigal, but then you've got Woods from Montini, also at 126. And I think, let me see if I got this right here. So you've got, and Jordan Decatur, who moved up. Joey Silva from Lake Highland Prep. Davis from Wyoming Sem, Cannon from Blair. I mean, and Silva, obviously, Silva's number 4 ranked in the country.
When Jaded Abbas is the number 8 seed, you know you have.
You know it's tough. Yeah, I was gonna say that's a pretty good indicator. Absolutely brutal. 132 also has Sherman from Blair Academy, Hart from St. Edward, and Sherman, a national prep placer, and Hart, a Ohio State champ. 120 also being pretty difficult. Other than we mentioned Warner, and I like I said, I think Warner is going to win it at 195. I think Dak Punke at 120 also has a chance of placing for Illinois. Another guy I would say has a pretty good shot. 120 also being fairly deep. Let's see. Melendez at 113. And I think Montini, the 106-pounder. Ragusa?
Yeah, now Ragusa is only the number 9 seed, so he's going to have to.
He's going to have a tough weight, but
he's going to have to score. He's going to have to upset somebody in order to get into the medals there. But you know, he's had some big wins in some big places, so it's certainly possible. I think the guys, the guys ahead of him are not at least in the 7 and 8 spots are not unbeatable.
Mm. And let's see, and of course, Luana was a finalist last year, also seeded. He's probably got a pretty good chance of placing. He's up at 145. Now, Marmion Academy, kind of tough to say. I mean, they've got a couple guys. McKenna, maybe. He made a huge jump in weight class, though, from 106 up to 32. And then Cheloni, who came fairly close to placing last year.
Yeah, they just don't have that kind of team this year.
Oh, well, they lost that huge core, you know, the Traxler, Corello, Riley DeMoss, and Jaffe, you know, state champ. So they've still got a lot of talent. I think they've got a decent dual meet team, but in a individual tournament of this kind of depth of talent might be a little bit tougher for them.
Yeah, I don't. I think if they were to finish in the top 20, they would probably be doing cartwheels all the way back to Aurora.
Now, anybody, dark horses, just speaking from the Illinois side, guys here who you think might have a shot at placing. I think now 220 in the upper weights actually has got a couple of decent guys. With Campbell from St. Ed's and Singletary from Blair. I think Middlebrooks, even though he's probably not seeded, might have a good shot at placing.
Yeah, you never know. I mean, obviously he's gonna run into Schultz fairly quickly.
Yep.
In the round of 16, so that's going to be a tough match for him. This is I'm looking at these seeds, and it's hard to see where somebody's going to break through. I think
Sure.
I actually think Ragusan has the best shot.
Mm-hmm.
If you're talking about a guy that's seeded outside of the top 8.
Well, and he's an All-American. He's a Fargo All-American, so he has a resume, so to speak.
Yeah. So I think again, he is in a weight class that I would certainly not call the toughest in this tournament. So you never know.
Right. And let's see. Okay, just running through this then real quick. Okay, at 106. Yeah, seeing a lot of these guys who are freshmen or sophomores that haven't started yet. Schwartz from Wyoming Sem, Chauvin from Lake Prep. They're up there in the seeds. And it's tough to say like at a weight at 106. You have the nationally ranked guys, but you really don't. You don't know. And St. John Bosco always brings guys that are really good. Even though they rarely bring a full team, they always bring like the few outstanding individuals.
Yeah, I think 106, at least on paper, is two of the top 3 seeds are going to be in the finals in some order. It's going to be Schwartz or Chauvin or Bird. I think it's going to somebody. You're going to see some upsets if somebody below Bird at number 3 gets in.
Okay. Go ahead and jump to 113 and give me your take on 113.
Well, I mean, I think if you're looking at the top 4 really control it here. I know that Keaton is the number 1 seed because of winning it last year. I would actually favor the next 3 guys over Keaton, but you never know. Keaton's proven it on this stage. D'Amelio, Melendez, and Koliako. And then so that's my take on 113. And but I think another couple of guys to watch are Jacob Dunlop from Bell Vernon, who's seeded 8th. And Matthew Cardello of CVCA, who was only seeded 10th, but had a great off season.
Yeah, I'm curious to see too how Okansanya does. He was an undersized 106 pounder. Now he's moved up to 113 pounds, and this is senior year. So
maybe
this is a
feel
big deal for him.
disrespected only being 13th.
Mm-hmm.
Figures he'll have something to prove.
And then moving,
so he would feed into Koliako in the round of 16 as things stand right now.
Okay, so moving real quick to 120.
Punky is seeded number 5. He's obviously Illinois' best bet here.
Yeah.
He's got Lucas Stricker, the number 4 seed, probably in a quarterfinal from Akron-Hoban. I think that's a match he could get shot in. When you look at a second seed in Madara who had double figures in losses last year.
Yeah, good point.
Granted, it was against Blair's schedule.
Yeah,
but 10 losses is a lot. I think this is a wide open weight.
I totally agree.
Although I do see that Bo Bartlett is down to 120. I think you're going to see him at 126 after this.
Yeah, from Wyoming Sem. Yeah, Bo Bartlett. And I think he's the favorite. But yeah, it drops off pretty quick, and there's no like top 5 guys in this weight class. So I agree with you. I think Punkay, who came close to placing last year, has an excellent chance to place this year at that weight class. And you have to remember, I mean, he's a 2-time junior national Greco champion.
That's his style for sure.
So it'll be interesting to see. And I think we kind of already covered 126, which is just downright brutal. I mean, 126 is insane.
We're looking there, of course, at Woods and Madrigal meeting in a quarterfinal.
Yeah.
The winner's going to get Spencer Lee in the semis.
Well, yeah, welcome to the Iron Man.
Exactly.
And then, of course, and there's other guys there, there's always that 1 or 2 guys that you don't know or who might have a great tournament. And there's just, golly, there's so much depth in that weight class.
Yeah, I mean, Chase Zolman, 2nd and 3rd in California.
Oh, right, from Poway. Yeah, from Poway.
Only seated 11th.
Yeah, I know. That's insane. That is just insane. Okay, in 132, we spoke a little bit about that, which should be a pretty good one. Moore
and Rennery, you've already talked
and
about.
And Sherman, Zach Sherman from
2.
Blair. You got Hart, who's a state champ from Ohio. And Donathan from Mason, Ohio. Zach Donathan.
Yeah, I remember his days as a 106-pounder.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting to see what he does at 132.
That's a jump for him.
I think, we'll have Sherman in a semifinal if he gets to the semifinals.
Yeah.
Hart's going to have Gary Joint of Lemoore, California, in a quarterfinal, and Joint is not a guy you want to sleep on. He's really dangerous.
No. He's an All-American. He's a junior freestyle All-American. Yep. So, yeah, that's good. I said before, I would love to see a rematch between Mitch Moore and Jason in the finals, because they met a few years before in the finals, and of course, Moore won. And then lost in a dual meet to a guy Jay Ren had beaten. So, yeah, I mean, it's just, the deal. It's who beats who when.
Yep. That's right. It's what kind of role you're on going into that match. And I think, speaking of that, I think, I think at 138, Chaloni really got a good draw.
Oh, yeah, he did.
He's the 4th seed. You'll have Jacob Greenwood of Colorado in a quarterfinal if they get that far. I think this is a weight where any of the top 7 probably have a shot to reach the finals. I don't think, I think you're looking at the top 3, Matthews, Shy, and Aronoff at one level, and there's a pretty big drop-off from there
after that, Sure. Yeah, no, I agree. And it's again, 138 could be fairly wide open, because any one of those top 3 seeds could win that easily.
Right.
And then go to 145 again, pretty deep. And I mean, with Damas and Sasso, obviously the two favorites. Luan, good chance to place. Solomon from Franklin Regional, also good. But then you got Brindley too from Lake Highland Prep. Brindley's tough.
Brindley's very good, and this will be the last time you see Josiah Ryder at 145. I'm sure he'll probably go back to 160 where he was last year.
Good Lord!
But he's one of those guys that I never know until February where I'm going to put him in my ranking. He just flops around from 45 to 52 to 60. But Sasso and Milan had a great match, of course, at Fargo with Milan winning. And I remember that that was a great 3-man battle there at 45, where Sasso lost to Lawan and lost to
Mm-hmm.
Brock Hardy from Utah in the other style. And he went
Mm-hmm.
12-0, and I think only gave up 3 points against everybody else he wrestled for the week.
Wow. Yeah, that. But
So anybody not named Hardy or Lawan had no shot.
yeah, yeah, and it's interesting because like a guy like Damas comes from a school that's small, obscure, that isn't even entering a full team. But that just kind of tells you the strength of this tournament, because a lot of teams, and if you've never been to an Ironman, to the people, watching this, it's amazing. You can't walk 10 yards in that building without bumping into a college coach. I mean, that's how heavy the college coaches come to recruit this tournament, and how much national talent is at this tournament. And
well, yeah, Damas is one of the cornerstones of Lou Rosselli's newest recruiting class at Oklahoma, and he's made a huge splash.
wow,
With his November signings. Damas is one of them. Kyle Lawson, the number 1 seed.
Oh, Lawson, wow, 160, yeah.
So,
who used to be at St. Paris Graham.
Oklahoma had,
yeah.
Right. Yeah, he transferred to Olentangy Liberty last year. I think Olentangy Liberty is another school that they're in my team top 25 for the first time this year, even though they lost Roselli's son when he moved to Oklahoma.
Yeah.
But they had more than enough other guys coming back to get themselves a top 25 spot, and I think they'll definitely be top 10 in the team standings, and they might even get the 5th spot with a few breaks.
Nice. And Lawson was one of those, I guess, for lack of a better term, a weight class casualty for Paris Graham, because they had that log jam, and
exactly.
So he had to move, and he did, and of course, obviously he had a lot of success, but, it's just funny how that happens. Some teams, have that issue, which isn't necessarily a bad thing for the team, but not a great thing for the individual, so to speak.
Well, depth is good, and sometimes depth is bad. Look at what happens at Alabama every year. They recruit 3 5-stars, and there's only one football. So we've seen that happen already this fall with one of their quarterbacks, and you're going to see it with other guys. That's just the way it is. You can only put 14 guys on the mat at 14 weight classes.
Oh, you see it. Well, Trevor Knight was at Oklahoma.
Exactly.
So anyway, like I said, 145 should be one of the better weight classes with Solomon, Ryder, Luan, Sasso, Damas, and Brindley from Lake Island Prep, who, looking at internet rankings, they've got him at 17, and quite frankly, I think he's better than that. But, that's just, it'll be interesting to see, because this is Lake Highland Prep's first year at the Ironman and at the Clash, which they're going to do later, which is not bad for a Class A school of about 600 students.
Well, this will be their second year at the Ironman. They won it last year. But I'm sorry.
No. I'm talking about Lake Highland Prep. I have the wrong. I got you. That's it. Yeah, I know what you meant. Yeah. No, but the Lake Highland Prep, and when
I think they'll do just fine at the Clash.
Oh yeah, I think they'll do fine here at the Ironman. I think they'll be top 5 at the Ironman.
You can win it with 9. You can win it with 9 or 10 good guys.
Oh, absolutely. So moving on to 152, obviously the favorite is Carr from Massillon Perry.
Although that's going to be a great final between Carr and Hovis.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I think Hovis from Hallway is definitely yeah.
It's going to be a great final between Carr and Hovis, and it's a little bit of a ways down to Artelona, but that's going to be a great semifinal.
Yeah, well, and you got Rocky Jordan in there too, from Paris Graham, one of the Jordan families. or I should say, a member of the Jordan family.
He'll run. He'll
Yeah.
He'll of course run it. He'll run into Ramirez in a quarterfinal, and it's another one of those 4 against 5 matches.
Yeah, Ramirez from Blair. Yeah, so also 152 again, solid weight class, but yeah, I totally agree with you. I think Carr and Hovis are probably your 2 guys in the final from Poway, and I haven't seen Poway, California, with a lot of guys in this tournament.
Yeah, I think they're number 3, looking at the top 2 again in California, but they're a very solid number 3. They're
a good program.
They have several. They have 4 state place winners of their own back, plus of course Hovis, who transferred in. So.
Who transferred, right. When you think about California, a lot of times, of course, you always think about Clovis. And then, of course, Buchanan, who last year kind of finally, passed up Clovis and won that state championship, won the Clash last year. Actually, great dual meet with them and Oak Parker Forest in the championship bracket. Came down to the last match. And now Poway, who's just like right below that top 2 of those 2 teams.
Right.
So going to 160,
right.
which is
very close, very close to Clovis, considering the graduation losses that Clovis had.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And 160 now, moving on, another sick weight class. You already mentioned Kyle Lawson. You got Wallabaugh, Hunter Boland, for probably a distant relative. Chris, given the fact my family originally landed in Virginia back on the Mayflower, but
cool story.
Yeah, Luke Troy and Marola from Blair. So another really Bilek too, and again Lake Highland Prep, Florida.
Yeah, when Eric Bilek is the number 8 seed,
it's tough.
Tough weight class. Well, I think there's a drop off from there, but boy, the number 8, the top 8 guys are very strong here.
Brutal, and the guy from Winter Springs, Florida. I'm not real familiar with Wallabaugh, but I know he's a runner-up, a junior national All-American at Fargo. So this weight class is insane.
Been a runner-up a lot of times.
Yeah, he's tough. He's tough. So going to 170. Again, top heavy with the top guys. Obviously, the favorite Labriola from Bethlehem Catholic in Pennsylvania. Then you got some other guys, and again, another Lake Highland Prep guy, Bryce Rogers, who over the last year or so, I would say is one of the most improved wrestlers in the country. He just made a huge, not just jump in weight class, but success-wise, amazing.
He was largely responsible for getting Brown into my early signing top 25 classes for the first time. There's a little spoiler alert there for the next issue. A class which also includes 2 Illinois wrestlers, by the way, Charles Faber from Glenbard West and
nice. Faber,
James Valentino, the heavyweight from St. Viator. Both those guys are part of Brown's recruiting class as well.
Well, that's a good pickup for Brown, and of course, that's
you better
have the grade point average to get there.
That's right. They already have Trey Keeley from Washington as a freshman there this year. So
Keeley too. Oh wow.
So
okay.
Making a big. Nice. So Todd Beckerman is making huge inroads into Illinois.
So looking at this weight class, I haven't looked at the brackets, but I think very possible Labriola and Rogers.
Yeah, I think the top 3 is really the story here. Corrali against Rogers is
good match.
Is going to be a great semifinal.
Yeah, and Rogers, just for people who don't know, the Super 32 Rogers won the Super 32, and that's impressive. The Super 32 is a no BS. I mean, depending on some of the weight classes, maybe more or less, but for him to win the Super 32 is impressive.
Yeah, beat Jake Alar, which is a great win.
Okay, then moving on to 182. Now it starts to get a little thinner now.
Just a little bit. Yeah. I think
I think Beard
I like the top 5 guys here.
Yeah. Well, Beard's the real deal from Pennsylvania. Beard is tough.
Yeah, Beard's a great number 1 seed. I think you're going to see some things you might not expect from this kid who's seeded number 5, Trevor Nicholson, small town Nebraska kid, signed with Nebraska in the early signing period here. He's been undefeated for 2 straight years in Nebraska, and I think I think he's a star waiting to happen. He's seeded number 5 here, which means you'll get J.T. Brown of Elyria in the quarterfinals. Brown's been around, so that's going to be an interesting quarterfinal, and it'll be interesting to see how Travis Stefanik handles going from 152 all the way to
182. Yeah. Yeah, and
if he's at 182 here, he's really a 182.
Yeah, oh yeah. From St. Edward. And going to 190.
I'm talking about Stefanik.
Oh, Stefanik. I'm sorry. I thought you meant Stefanik. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, Stefanik. Oh, yeah. From Pennsylvania. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
He's going from 52 all the way to 82.
Good Lord. Yeah. Okay. Stefanik because I was just going to say Stepic from St. Ed's is in this weight class also, and he's pretty good. And I think you mentioned Brown from Elyria. But yeah, when you start to get the upper weight class now, 195, as we mentioned before, I really think if a wrestler from Illinois is going to win a title here, I really think it'll be Jacob Warner.
This is a 2-man weight, I think, between him and Moscow.
Oh yeah, Moscow from Blair. Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, Warner finalist last year, lost to a somewhat hobbled Nick Reenan, but Reenan, of course, is, I mean, he was one of the top recruits in the country. And he's the only ranked wrestler in the field, which makes him, a big favorite, but you just, you never know. But I think Warner's been relatively consistent, and I would be really surprised if he doesn't win.
Yeah, I think he'll do just fine.
Yeah, in the upper weights, I think of all the upper weights from when we go to 182 all the way to 285, I think 220 is probably the toughest of the upper weights. You've got some really good ranked wrestlers at 220. It's not bad. Yeah, exactly.
This is not bad. I think it's a little bit deceptive with Brady Daniel and Jeffrey Allen only seeded 6 and 7.
Mm-hmm.
I think those 2 guys are probably going to finish higher than that.
Yeah.
I think the top 3, Singletary, Schultz, and Campbell, have all separated themselves.
Oh, I agree.
Going to be interesting to see what Sullivan has. He's a Division III state champion, and so.
And then you got another Lake Highland prep guy in Ben Golden, who's pretty decent.
Not bad.
Yeah, not bad.
I will honestly be surprised if he finishes as high as 5th, although that's where he's seated. Yeah. But we'll just have to see. Maybe he'll ride the wave of his teammates.
Yeah. Well, Singletary from Blair, of course, he's a previous Ironman champion. At what was it, 195 last year? Right. And Campbell's an Ironman. Placer, I don't know that much about Schultz from Ponderosa, Colorado.
He's a sophomore.
And then, like you mentioned, Sullivan from one of the more smaller schools in Ohio.
Schultz is a sophomore who's been on a world team, and
Okay,
also
there you go.
also won the cadet freestyle. So he was a known commodity even before he first set foot in high school.
Yeah, 285 going down. Honestly, I like Vo from Elyria, Ohio to repeat. He won it last year. Actually, if I remember, I was there. Yeah, he won by fall in a kind of a weird match, but I honestly don't see anybody beating him. I don't. To say it couldn't happen, but I think he's the favorite.
There's not a particularly strong weight. Interesting guy in the mix is Jake Levengood from Vacaville, California, who's up from 220 last year. He was third in the state. So obviously he's grown to be at heavyweight for an event like this. So he's only seeded sixth. I would look for him to finish higher than that. And but I think overall the top three here have separated themselves a little bit as well.
Yeah, and Vo for a heavyweight is very athletic. I like I said, watching him at the Ironman last year, he's tough. He was a tough cookie. So I guess that'll wrap up our Ironman preview. Team-wise, I think Blair's probably going to win it again, and then after that, though I'll tell you, I think Lake Highland Prep's going to have a pretty good showing, and you've still got St. Paris Graham in the mix. You got St. Edwards in the mix. Be interesting to see which.
Lake Highland has a lot of guys seated high, so
and nationally ranked, yes, as you would expect. They've got you consider a lineup they had last year, and the only top guy they lost was Elijah Cleary, who was actually very good, but just a solid team. And for a school with an enrollment of around 600 in Florida, they've kind of become the new Brandon, so to speak, I guess, if you would look at Florida wrestling.
Right. Well, of course, being a private school, there are some things they could do.
Oh, of course.
There's some things they could do with their program.
Yeah, absolutely. And Florida, of course, has their like Minnesota, their enrollment, or Ohio is a lot different than some of the other states, and where you can go and where you can attend school. But I got to give hats off to former Glenbard North State champ wrestler Mike Palazzo for doing a great job building that program. Just amazing where they pretty much came out of nowhere, and now
Yeah, he's kind of the energy behind the Central Florida club, which is kind of where he got his start coaching down there, and of course that's where many of his kids come out of is that Central Florida wrestling.
Well, and that's just so important. You can't stress enough the feeder programs, clubs, etc. that you can pull kids from, and it's just it's huge in building that base and then developing a successful high school program.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we pretty much covered the Ironman, and hopefully we'll be back. Or I shouldn't say hopefully. We'll be back next weekend because there's a lot more. Or less next Thursday. There'll be a lot more coming up. But again, the major event, and there's the Illinois teams we already mentioned there. It'll be interesting to see which out of those Illinois teams can crack the top 10 or so. Depending on Montini's got some pretty good guys. Montini actually did well in this tournament last year, just based on the guys they put in the finals.
Yeah, exactly. They had three guys, I guess, in the top three or something like that, and three guys in the top three is going to get you close. Is going to get you close to 100 points.
Well, they had four guys in the finals, of which I know Duncan won and Woods won. They had Melendez and they had, or actually Melendez, I don't remember if he was in the finals or if he placed, but then, and Luan was in the finals. He was runner-up, but, you know, 2 champs in Duncan and Woods. So just on the strength of that, you know, and at one point, just with the few guys ahead, they were leading the tournament. You know, obviously the depth of the other schools eventually passed them up, but it just shows, you know, in an individual tournament field, how if you have the 4 or 5 or 6 guys who can go all the way, and that's, you know, a couple of years ago why Paris Graham won it. You know, because they put all those guys in the finals and won a lot of titles. But then they went on to get
finalists make such a difference in a tournament this big.
And then they go on, you know, in a couple of weeks to lose badly in a dual meet to Blair Academy, which, you know, just kind of shows the difference between the individual tournament. And then, you know, in a dual meet, who has that good day for just one match versus the guy who has
a completely different animal.
Definitely. So again, like I said, for a team like Oak Park or Washington to get up into that top 10, it's not just going to take their stars. It's going to take some of the other guys to win a lot of matches and then go out and place. And both teams have other guys that are good, but the draws in the Ironman are just so important. And if you get a bad draw, you could get maybe all the way to the quarterfinals. But then when you lose and you go into the loser's bracket, catch a tough match within 1 or 2, and then that quick be gone.
Yeah, well,
so we'll go ahead and wrap this up. I will be actually leaving tomorrow morning. I'll be heading out to the Ironman, and then we'll cover that in the next podcast next Thursday, and then as usual, you know, then the upcoming events. And again, I want to say thank you very much, Rob, and thanks to GEI Wrestling Apparel and everybody. If you have anything maybe you want to see, go ahead and post on Illinois Matmen or post on the YouTube video. Again, all these are uploaded automatically to YouTube, so you can catch them later as they are archived. And want to hear your feedback, anything else you want to add. And again, thanks for watching, and we'll catch you next time. And thanks, Rob. Appreciate you. Have a good night,
thanks
folks.
for having me.